but it is important, you know, um, because too much on the other end of the spectrum really takes away from, I think, one's ability to make it through hard anything that's on the spectrum of hardship, struggle, change. Dare I say that schedules, routines can be comfort for some people. Um, Not that schedules and routines are a bad thing, but I believe I've seen it when somebody's so stuck to their routine it can't go outside of that routine that it limits their behavior and it limits their social connectedness, let's say. So I don't know. I bring that up because uh, we were talking a couple times ago, Paz, about your situation down in Texas, your living situation not being co-located. And the whole time you were talking, one of the things I was saying, looking at your background was, you know, it might look comfortable, but would you feel comfortable speaking about what that's been like down there and maybe what initially discomfort ended up pushing you to a direction of growth, maybe, let's say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess kind of quick description of my current living situation is, yeah, I'm still active duty, still down here in San Antonio, doing I'm in still, like I said, still active duty, doing my EOD job, down here, staff position, and my family. Recently we moved them up to Rhode Island, which is going to be our forever home. I have somewhere between either August of next year I'll retire or April of 23. So kind of undefined as to how long I will still be here in San Antonio, trying to make that work with my wife, 2 kids being up in Rhode Island. And yeah, I mean, it poses obviously, stressors both personally, financially, all of these things, because, I am renting an entire another place to live, which comes with an entire another set of bills, when you look at the pyramid of what you need to survive, and you're on that base layer of security, food, a shelter. I have all of those things. However, they come at a greater cost than we would normally have if everyone was in one place. I would say what's been tougher on me is the emotional piece. Uh, those that do know me know that I do family stuff. I love the time I have with my wife. I love the time I have with my boys. Um, it's not easy. The most recent was getting to go up for my son's birthday in Rhode Island. Had a couple days together, enjoyed it, but watching him be a tough kid in the back seat of the car at the airport when I'm doing hugs and going to get into the airport, and he's choking back tears. I don't care how tough you are. That's not an easy one, and it's one that I know that we will get through. Um, and it's being okay with that. Because it comes back to some basic questions. Does my family know I love them? Yes. Do they know I'm doing the best I can to get back up there? Yes. Does it have to be done? And maybe this spurs a bit of a different part of the conversation. Does it have to be done in the right way? Yes. I will not lie. I will not forego my responsibilities that I have said I will do. I made a commitment, and my word means a lot to me, and I think it defines a lot of who I am and who I want to be for my family. Therefore, I will serve and do my job until it's time to not do my job. And open and honest communication with the family. I mean, this isn't something that took us by surprise or anything. These are decisions we made, you know, my wife and I did as a family. We knew it would be tough. Did we take some gambles? Yeah, I was up for an MEB. They decided that's not the direction they're going. So it just makes this part a little bit longer. Where I've grown, and I would say we have grown because I'm not in this by myself, and I'm fully aware of that, is my wife and I mean, obviously all the communications you would normally do in person are done over a setting like this or just a phone. And we're still making those, you know, decisions and ways forward. So yes, there's strength to be gained in our communication, our appreciation for the time that we do have together, which I think I'll do my best to wrap this and send it back to Brad with. There was a section in the book where, although we're not talking about death, we're talking about hard things. Okay. And having an appreciation for the time that we do have today. I could make the choice to sit here and be miserable. And I'm human, and there are moments I do that. There are days I do that. That's life. But I can choose to do my job well. I can choose to make productive days out of today. You know, there's ways to be productive that further what I hold near and dear. And those are choices. I don't always make them on my own. Sometimes it's when I watch a video that Mario posted, or Brad Klein points me towards a book and I go, okay, not too bad, you know, and those are, I'm using those as examples because we're sitting here. But once again, having that community around each other, you got to let people in. And I have, and I'm happier for it. I've tried to be the tough guy on my own because I was concerned with what everybody would think of me. Is he just a sad sack over here? Well, maybe you'll think it, but I'm going to be honest about it and own it. So I think I've allotted my time. So I will yield the rest of my time back to the gentleman from Italy.
No, you could talk as long as you want, man. That was awesome stuff. I actually, it was funny. I already knew where you were going because I actually, in my notes that I'm taking here from when I chopped this up into short clips too, I already typed impermanence as the first note. And, you know, maybe we're not talking about, you know, the impermanence that they talk about at that point in the book when he goes to Bhutan. But something that, you know, I was thinking about yesterday while I was doing a little bit of meditation on two wheels, so to speak, riding a motorcycle for like 200 miles in these insane Italian mountains, is that everything is changing all the time. That's another form of impermanence. It's not just about dying, right? Everything is changing. And so what I came to the realization of, and I don't know if the book flat out said this or not, but I was just thinking about it. No matter what's happening, if it's good, if it's bad, it's not going to stay that way, either way. And there's something to be taken from that. Because if something bad is happening, that's not permanent. That's going to change. Eventually, it will change. That's the basis of this stuff, right? If something awesome is going on, it's not going to stay that way. It will eventually change in some way. And there's things you can actually take away from that. Of first of all, if things are bad, you get hope out of that, right? You get the hope of things are going to get better at some point. It will happen. And it may require me to put in some effort, right? It's not just going to say like, just sit back and don't do anything and it'll automatically magically get better. I'm not trying to suggest that by any stretch. But also too, when things are going awesome, that is going to change at some point. And what you need to, take away from that part of it is remember those times when things were awesome, and store that away in your permanent memory banks if you can, and reflect back on that when it's the opposite, when things aren't going awesome. For me, the personal, right away, the forefront of my mind. I mean, I have a couple, but the very first one that comes to my mind, because I realized it when it was happening, was when I went salmon fishing with my dad on Lake Ontario the year before he passed away, and he would just come out of chemo and was starting to get better. Was doing, was able to get out and do some stuff and be active. And we went up to Lake Ontario and we went fishing for salmon on the lake, and it was just insane. And some people, if you're spiritual, you might say that was God, right? And I'm not necessarily religious myself, but I could see that in this instance. If you want to call it God, you want to call it whatever you want. But this was one of those times where things were going awesome, but I knew it wasn't going to be forever. So I tried to make sure I stored as much of it in my head to refer back to later on in life, and remember that awesome things will happen again. But just a quick rundown of the experience. We get out there on the lake, and the limit is 3 fish per day, right? And if you ask like a charter boat captain, like, oh, what's the limit? They're probably gonna laugh at you, like, yeah, we don't get the limit every day. Like, just because it's the limit, that doesn't mean we catch that many fish. By, I don't know, 8:30 in the morning, we've been on the water maybe 2 hours. We had already each had our 2 in the cooler, and we were throwing back fish because we figured we could get bigger ones. And like the boat captain, I always recommend everybody because he's awesome. But he was just like, holy crap, I've never seen this in like 20, 30 years of freaking chartering boats on Lake Ontario. And we just killed it, absolutely killed it the whole entire time. And that's one of my favorite memories that I knew that it was going to come to an end at some point, but I would forever have that memory for the rest of my life. And that also comes up in Man's Search for Meaning some other ways, but I would try not to get too off the beaten path and go off on my tangents here. Turn it over to Mario if he's got anything to add. Something came up in his mind.
Yeah. Like you, all that shit's going through my head at the time. There was something that I picked up because you've talked about this. I remember when you went up there and did it. I remember when you posted the pictures. This has been a fond memory for quite some time. Anybody listening to you can tell, that it's important, right? And so this goes back to comfort, and I guess living in the moment is what I wrote down. And it seemed like the story you were telling, the picture you were painting, if you will, was of a really important moment, with you, that you got to share with your father at a certain time and place. And then I go and I start thinking, okay, what senses is he using? Taste, touch, sight, smell. It's that specific combination of stimuli that makes it a powerful moment. And that's kind of how it impacts you. And I have this theory, I guess this would make sense because I can tie this to some of the EOD things we've done. The more senses that we're using, depending on what's going on, the more impactful the moment is, whether it's good or bad. I've talked about trauma as one end of the spectrum, and bliss, joy, elation is the other end. When I look back at some of the worst parts of my life and worst events that I've dealt with, have been very visual to me. Some of the worst things have had visual things associated with them, touch, handling things, probing, minds, or sweeping with fingers, consistency of certain things. That's when all those different sights, sounds, smells that are associated at a certain time are activated. And sometimes we don't even know that our body is experiencing, reliving what we're going through. I speak for my own experience with that. I have read something about that, how the body and mind experiences reliving. In the book, The Body Keeps the Score. I've talked about that before. For some, it's a hard to get through book. And it's hard to hear some of that stuff. But I think part of that stuff has helped me kind of process these concepts as well. And yeah, see it. But this has been recommended to me, I think, down at Warrior Path and somebody else. But a lot of concepts like that, when those senses come together, that's that muscle memory from that important event. And so just being able to, tie it back to comfort. I look at the way that majority of us live nowadays. And climate controlled, very comfortable beds, very comfortable eating, very comfortable driving. We're not inconvenienced by really much. We don't even have to hear when we're driving what the road or the engine feels like anymore. You're so isolated in this perfect little bubble that your senses are being dulled. I think people's senses are actually being dulled because of this extreme comfort. Yeah, Brad.
So I just had to raise my hand up because I think it was just before you joined, Paz and I were talking about this with riding a motorcycle versus driving a car. And driving a car is by all means more comfortable than riding a motorcycle, unless you're on like a Gold Wing or something maybe, but those things are so big they may as well be cars. If you're riding a motorcycle that's not a Gold Wing, right? It's so much different of an experience, because we were talking about like, I would love to. It looks so much fun, but like I don't know if I would be able to be able to do that safely because of how I drive a car. And it's like, well, you're forced to, because of the discomfort, and the risk and everything else that's happening, and everything is involved. All four appendages sometimes are working in concert. Throttle, clutch, shifting, rear brake, all that stuff. And sitting on the bike, you're feeling your knees, you feel it in your butt, you feel it in your back. And then you're also processing everything that's coming at you. I feel like I talk about motorcycles every single time we do these, but that was just something that came up that I thought was awesome. Yep, exactly. You're forced to do that. And that's one of the hugest draws, I think, to riding a motorcycle is it's almost a form of meditation. People call it wind therapy. And there's a sort of a joke, I don't know, but that people say like you don't ever see a motorcycle parked, in front of like a therapist's office or something like that. But not that anybody should ever feel bad about getting therapy, but they're suggesting that riding a motorcycle can be that therapy for you. So, yeah, go ahead, Paz. You're muted, bud.
Sorry, little boomer situation there. Okay, got that mute button off. I think we're talking a lot about living in the moment. It really does. You can, but even we could take a step further and say we're making a conscious decision to step out of that comfort. Certain times, and I think there's a delineation to be made of when it comes to comfort. There are certain times you choose to be out of your comfort zone. I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to go on this caribou hunt in Alaska in the Arctic. I'm going to walk the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to do these things. And these are these conscious decisions to go where I'm going to make these tests for myself. And then when you have these times that happen naturally at least for me, a lot of the message of the book was you're going to be more in tune, and these really what comes down to in many instances really is a minor inconvenience that takes you out of this comfort zone. It's not as big of a deal anymore. And once again, you're operating at this area of a lower stress, a lower anxiety, because you've also reminded yourself through your own choices that I can go step outside of my comfort zone and things will be fine and I will get through them. You know, hearing all the discussion we've just had, especially about, you know, climate controlled areas and having food everywhere, it just reminded me of I don't know if you guys know who Mitch Hedberg was. He was a comedian, died a few years ago. He had a bit he did about escalators. And like when the escalator is out, there's always a sign up that says it is closed. And he's like, what is I'm sorry for the convenience. It is now a set of steps. And that is the conscious choice to go, well, yeah, it's not going to propel me up there, but I can still make it up here. I just have to take some of these steps myself. You know what I mean? It's a minor inconvenience. And by constantly, I mean, I'm sure you're going to get into misogi if I'm pronouncing that right, but finding our own versions of that and to what level allow us to be more comfortable with stepping out of our comfort zones.